Mysterious ancient technologies. Watch this video to learn about ancient technologies. We can't fully understand our ancestors' technology, leaving us unable to explain their creations and ideas. We'll share what we know and inspire you to learn more. Antikythera mechanism. There's a lot we can say about the Antikythera mechanism. We could tell you that it's Greek, it was found in the middle of a shipwreck, and it's approximately 2,000 years old. What we can't tell you is how it worked or what it was used for, and neither can any expert who's ever been given a chance to examine it. We hesitate to describe the device as being powered by clockwork, because such a concept should have been impossible to understand for the people of the time. But if it had a clockwork-like mechanical system that enabled it to track the position of planets and stars in the night sky, the fact that it was found on a ship might suggest that it had a nautical use. But if that were the case, we'd expect to find similar devices on many other Greek shipwrecks of this era. We never have, and so it might be the case that it was a brand new invention when the ship went down, and as its owner likely went to the bottom of the sea with it. Nothing like it was created again for almost 1,000 years. Ashoka Pillar. There are two ways to interpret the Iron Pillar of Delhi, which is sometimes called the Ashoka Pillar. Either the ancient Indians had knowledge of an advanced form of rust-proofing that they only ever used once, or they invented rust-proofing by accident and were never able to replicate the accident after they built the pillar. The 22-meter-tall pillar is around 1,500 years old, and yet it hasn't weathered or rusted in all the centuries it's been standing. The pillar was made inside a primitive coal furnace and would have been exposed to a combination of lime, dampness, and slag as it was knocked into shape. The mist-white would have been formed by the resulting chemical reaction. Regardless of whether it was an accident or not, it took the human race centuries to come up with anything effective at keeping rust at bay. Emerald Tablet. Depending on your perspective, the Emerald Tablet may be an ancient document suppressed by authorities or a complex forgery. We cannot confirm which interpretation is correct, so we will share what we know. The mythology of the Emerald Tablet is linked to the Hermetica mythos. According to mythology, putting all the writings in the Hermetica in the correct order reveals the method of making gold from other base metals. This sounds similar to the philosopher's stone legend. Most of the texts that comprise the Hermetica are composed in ancient Greek or ancient Indian languages and were written around 1,800 years ago. The Emerald Tablet is different. It's more like 1,200 years old, and it seems to have been translated from Arabic before any other language. So far, it hasn't helped anyone to fabricate gold from lesser metals, but perhaps we just don't have all the parts yet. If it is a forgery, the perpetrator is probably still laughing at us from their 1,200-year-old grave. Pumapunku. Pumapunku in Bolivia was a favorite site of the Inca. To them, it was the most beautiful place on Earth and also the place that all life originated from. According to their creation myth, they didn't build the stone megaliths here, though. They were already present when the Inca arrived. The stones have been standing for 3,000 years, and yet they've been cut and assembled using methods that elude our detection. We'd be capable of recreating them today. We're capable of achieving a work of this brilliance as a riddle. No chisel marks are visible, and the boreholes for water drainage are smooth as if created by a modern power drill. Each stone intersects perfectly, making needle-like construction impossible. Pumapunku was clearly both a feat of engineering and a labor of love, and yet we don't know who to thank for it. Aramu Muru. Another fact about the Inca is that they had no written language, which means there's an awful lot of their civilization that we don't understand and probably never will. Among the mysteries they left behind for us is Aramu Muru, which appears to be an unfinished construction project in Peru. We say unfinished because the centerpiece of Aramu Muru is a doorway set into solid rock. It's been here for centuries but went unnoticed by archaeologists until local mountaineer José Luis Delgado Mamani stumbled across it while out walking during the early 1990s. On the banks of Lake Titicaca, not far from Peru's border with Bolivia, the T-shaped doorway is just over 6 feet tall and is known by the local native people as Puerta de Hayu Marca, which translates into English as the Gate of the Gods and is connected with a long-standing myth that people have been seen approaching the doorway and then disappearing through it into the rock, after which they were never seen or heard from again. Baghdad Battery. When electricity entered common usage around the end of the 19th century, it prompted a revolution in the way that we live. Nowadays, we wonder how our ancestors coped without electricity, but we might have to consider the possibility that they didn't. That's because of the discovery of the so-called Baghdad Battery found in Iraq in 1838. Whether by accident or by design, nobody can deny that this object functions as a battery. Inside the clay jar is a rod of iron wrapped in copper. It's possible that the iron was wrapped in copper for decorative reasons, but what would be the point of that if the resulting creation was hidden inside the clay jar? Perhaps the bigger question is, what could this artifact possibly be if it's not a battery? The device has been tested under strict lab conditions to determine whether it could generate and maintain an electric charge, and the answer was an emphatic yes. Having proven that fact, we must now ask ourselves what our ancestors were using batteries for 2,200 years ago when they were made, and how, as a species, we somehow managed to forget about electricity for so long. Death rays. Afterward, as far as modern scientists are concerned, death rays haven't been invented yet. They're a conceit of science fiction. If Archimedes were alive today, he may disagree with the assessment. Nearly 2,200 years ago, he invented a simple design using a parabolic dish and mirror to focus sunlight on enemy ships, resulting in their defeat. The vitrification process of stone requires temperatures over 1,000 degrees Celsius for hours, resulting in glass formation. This process may have occurred at sites like Quail Hill Fort in Scotland and other ancient forts on Europe's coastlines. The idea is simple but potentially very effective. During their time, the Vikings were the most accomplished sailors in the world. People of the time claimed that their proficiency at navigating the sea was down to their use of sunstones. These sunstones were said to be able to locate the sun's position even after it had gone down or when it was hidden by clouds, which would have made navigation much easier. The properties ascribed to the stones make them sound almost magical, which is why historians tend to view the concept with suspicion. As of 2010, we're more inclined to believe they were real. Roman concrete. During the Roman Empire, the Romans mastered the art of making glass and concrete, which was superior to modern Portland cement. Even with rainbow reinforcement, the ancient Roman arches, breakwaters, aqueducts, and other buildings lasted for centuries. The Romans used volcanic ash and lime to make mortar, which was mixed with volcanic rock as aggregate. This mixture was used in the construction of the Pantheon and Trajan's markets in Rome. Modern Roman concrete contains taubermorite, zeolite, and philipsite minerals resulting from seawater reacting with lime and volcanic ash to create interlocking min. Exposure to seawater strengthened concrete, but its use has declined since the fall of the Roman Empire. Leonardo da Vinci's inventions. The invention of the helicopter by Leonardo da Vinci in the 14th century is disputed. During the 1480s, da Vinci, a military engineer for the Duke of Milan, drew a basic design for a vehicle called the aerial screw. He was fascinated by the possibility of powered flight and wrote an 83-page manuscript on the topic, which included designs for a helicopter-like vehicle, a parachute, an ornithopter, and a hang glider. The polymus workings were technically sound. Da Vinci's helicopter blueprint inspired the steam engine, which revolutionized train travel in the 19th century, but the technology behind it was not new. You can trace the existence of the steam engine back to the Aeolipile, better known as Hero's engine because it was invented by Hero of Alexandria. History might give Hero too much credit, though, because he finished his design during the 1st century based on earlier work performed by Tibio over 100 years earlier. Hero's spherical engine is operated by boiling water beneath a steel sphere, which spins on its axis as steam begins to erupt from nozzles placed on opposite sides of the sphere, Nimrud lens. Few archaeological artifacts are more controversial than the Nimrud lens. This humble lump of rock crystal has been hailed by some as the world's first telescope. It's certainly capable of magnifying objects, but what historians can agree on is whether the magnification effect was used for stargazing, looking at objects from a long distance, or starting fires by magnifying the sun's rays. Its polished and carefully shaped form suggests it was not an accident. Its magnification factor of time 3 matches that of the first proper telescope invented in the Netherlands in 1608. Do you like it? Kindly give your valuable response in our comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative